Have you ever wondered where the problems in the world today would exist if we had deeper connection to ourselves, others, and the environment and acted from that place? Welcome to the Conscious Action Podcast with your host, Brian Berneman, who believe that connection is the key to taking conscious action as individuals and creating a better world. We are here to raise awareness and inspire meaningful action by sharing stories, knowledge, and conversations with thought leaders and change makers. From sustainability to well-being and everything related to conscious living, our mission is to empower you to be the change that you want to see in the world.
Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Conscious Action Podcast. I am Brian Berneman, your host. And for this episode, I wanted to explore the benefits of mindfulness for the workplace. This is a topic that I have worked with for a lot of years, both teaching at the university, working with businesses, and it has been part of my path. I started to get into this space because when I was living in California in the Buddhist retreat center, I was actually working a lot on how to bring the teachings of being present, being mindful, meditation, and a lot of the different perspectives that I was learning into everyday life. How could we use the work that we were doing there as a practice? And we realized, or I realized, that the benefit of introducing this was huge, not only for my well-being, for the cohesion of everyone working there, as well, we were super efficient and productive. So I wanted to explore during this episode a few of the different benefits and a few of the different ways that we can actually introduce this into our lives. So one of the things that I believe that is huge in terms of bringing mindfulness into the workplace is to allow ourselves to bring a teaching or a perspective that perhaps seems a little bit foreign for many, that it is something that is quite ancient, and as well, it's backed now by science. So a lot of times when I work with businesses, before I start working with them, one of the things is understanding the openness that there is to introduce different practices that are not perhaps what they are used to. So depending on what a company culture is, or depending on where they have been in terms of the country that they are working on and the culture there, perhaps they are not that open yet to this. But once we start to see all of the different benefits, then it starts to be clear how important it is to bring this into the workplace. So one of the things that mindfulness can do is that it improves our focus and our concentration. So once we start to actually practice and implement this, it really supports us to be more present, which therefore improves how much we are concentrating on the task at hand. When we're able to be present with what we are doing, our concentration and focus levels go really up, and then we are able to actually do things more efficiently and more productively. So there's an enhanced productivity that we can actually get when we are improving our presence, when we are improving being mindful of the task that we are doing. As well, there's a lot of benefit on reducing our stress. When we reduce our stress, then we show up better. So when we are practicing mindfulness, we can work with our stress levels, we can work with our anxiety and our worries, so we lower the stress levels, and we have better skills for managing that stress. So whenever things happen, we can use the different techniques that I'm going to talk a little bit later on, like the breathing techniques or the different mindfulness practices and meditations that allow us to actually manage stress in high stress or high level moments or environments. When we're able to understand that both we can lower stress and also we can manage it better, then this is a huge benefit for us. The other benefit as well is that we can enhance our emotional intelligence. When we are able to actually become more self-aware, then we actually understand how to manage our own experience, what we are bringing into the workplace from home, or what actually arises through the pressures at work or through the environment at work. When we are more aware of ourselves, we know how to show up in a different way. And when we know ourselves better and we understand ourselves better, we understand others better. So therefore, we can have more empathy and we can have better relationships with everyone that is involved at work, because now we are more mindful, we are more present, and we understand a little bit more how to actually have that interaction with our colleagues. As well, another benefit is that we have an increase in our resilience. We develop better coping mechanisms, and we actually build resilience by understanding how to use work, the challenges, the deadlines, and instead of burning out, instead of allowing that to overwhelm us, we're able to rise to the moment because we're able to, in a sense, surf the waves a little bit better as we become more present and we become more adaptable to things. When we're able to actually understand that we can actually become more resilient, we adapt better to whatever it is that is taking place. I know this was true with one of the businesses that I was working through when the pandemic happened some years ago, and we needed to adapt. We needed to find the different ways of still working with them and them working with me, both online in different places with the new environment and the new circumstances. So it is possible to become more adaptable as we become more mindful. We become better a lot of times at decision making. We have more clarity and more insight because of mindfulness. And we a lot of times can reduce our impulses, because the more present that we are, the more that we're able to respond appropriately to the situations instead of reacting. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not fast. It can be really fast, our decision-making process. It is about understanding that the more mindful that we are, the more present that we are, the more that we are going to respond appropriately instead of reacting, and that's an autopilot. So just understanding how that can happen, as well as the fact that when we become more mindful, not only we make better decisions, we also become more creative and more innovative. So as we have more open-mindedness, we can actually approach things with a more creative, lateral thinking perspective. And we can bring more innovative ideas. We can bring more capacity for problem solving, because now we are more focused, we feel more calm, we feel more present. So therefore, we can actually bring a different way of thinking. So whenever challenges arise at work due to internal or external circumstances, we're able to be with them. We're able to respond appropriately to what's going on. So there's a lot of these benefits, and a lot of these benefits need us to actually implement things, to be able to bring this into the workplace. As I mentioned before, the workplaces that open and that actually understand that if their team members, if their employees are doing well, then the company is going to be more productive. Then the people are going to take less sick days because they are doing better. They are going to show up, be more effective at what they do. The meetings are going to be more effective because people understand each other better. This is a benefit for the company and people that feel a lot of times that they are being taken care because they are given different skills and tools to be with themselves as people. They are more likely to stay in the company for a longer time. They are more likely to not leave whenever something happens because they feel like there's ways of working with it. There's different benefits on staying with that company because they care about them as people, which means that then there's less recruiting and less training time. So it's a two-way street that it's beneficial for the people in your company, for the culture overall of the company, as well as for the bottom line, because there now needs to be less spending of that recruiting or that retraining people, and you maintain better team cohesion. Now, there's a lot of different techniques, a lot of different ways of bringing these practices into the workplace. I know that through the years with each company that I work with, we always came together to understand where they are, what is possible, how much time do we have, what's the availability, and understanding the specific challenges and circumstances of the workplace. Because some places, there's a lot of computer work, there's a lot of thinking. Some other roles or companies have more physical needs because they are perhaps in a factory setting, moving things, or they need to go and meet clients. Depending on what are the circumstances, it depends on what are the techniques or the methodologies that need to be introduced. Some of them can be different ways of breathing, different meditation practices like, body scanning, but it really depends on what is going on at that specific company and meeting people where they are. This is why a lot of times there's wonderful resources and apps and online courses that are great as an introductory level program, but a lot of times what they lack is that they are not specifically tailored to the people and that company. I know that if I read books and if I go through different programs, great, I'm going to learn some stuff, I'm going to get that. Now, do I know if my employees have potentially not only that things are not tailored to them, do I understand that perhaps the strategy for how they actually learn is not through an app or it's not through an online course? Do I know the consistency, how they are going to implement those things that now they are learning? So having a lot of things personalized really help because we're all different and our needs are all different. So a lot of times, as I said, there's wonderful programs. I run some programs that are a little bit more generic. That's scratching the surface. We need to implement more workplace programs that are specifically tailored to our needs. And this is a process. And this is something that is going to be so much more beneficial and so much more productive, and actually is going to make the company more money on the long run, because even though, yes, it is a bigger investment to have things tailored, the benefit is exponentially higher. So when we're able to bring this mindfulness into our workplace, we create a different type of culture. We can also understand that whatever the culture values are we living them? Are we actually enabling them to be part of decision making and how we interact with each other. So a lot of times mindfulness can really support the team culture, the company culture, and how we use the moments of connection, the meetings, how we take care of all of the stakeholders, not only just the employees, but how we're relating to the clients, how we are communicating things outside. There's a lot of different things that are really beneficial on bringing mindfulness into the workplace. There's plenty of stories of some of the biggest companies like Google, like LinkedIn. I interviewed on this podcast Scott Schutt, that he was the mindfulness lead at LinkedIn, and how this really supported them. I know with all of the companies that I worked through the years, the benefit that it had on people as well as on the company itself. So the more that we look at companies like this, we can see a lot of times there's actually a benefit. There's a benefit in investing money to support the biggest resources that we have, which is the people that live and work every single day, because they have their own thing going on inside of work and outside of work. So one of the biggest things, as I mentioned at the beginning, is being open to introducing something like this, not only from an investment perspective, from a place that perhaps there's a lot of misconceptions, there's skepticism about different practices. So we need to be open to allow those things. And as well, we need to sustain the practices. This is not just a one-off thing. As I mentioned again, different people learn in different ways, different people maintain things differently. So how do we introduce a sustained practice into a busy workplace is really important. So again, lots of benefits in terms of concentration, stress levels, focus, emotional intelligence, culture in the team, more effectiveness. There's so many different ways of actually understanding how beneficial it is to bring mindfulness into the workplace. So I do encourage you to introduce this in your workplace. If you haven't yet, if you are in a position to make the decisions, get in touch. Let's see how we can actually support each other, or find someone else that is going to support you in this journey. If you are an employee somewhere and you don't feel like this is something that is there in your company, that you don't feel that they are making this a priority, talk to someone in people and culture or HR, depending on what it's called in your company, or go to your manager and ask, and bring some of these benefits and bring some of the reasons why this is important. Because it's important for you as a people, as a person. It's important for the company as a whole. So, as I mentioned, plenty of resources out there. Check them out always. Make sure that everything is personalized. So, long story short, I would love to know if you already have worked with someone, or in your company they do have mindfulness. How is it? What has been the benefit? How's your experience been with it? If this is not part of your company, as I mentioned, what resonated with what I talked about? Is there anything that you feel like, oh, that was important to know? As always, keep that conversation going. Leave a comment, whatever it is that you're finding this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you all in the next episode. Bye.
What did you like the most about this episode? Take a moment to think about what change you can make in your life today.
Share your conscious action on social media using #ConsciousAction and tagging @ConsciousActionNZ, so we can celebrate your impact on the world and create a ripple effect.
One easy action we would love for you to take right now is to share, like, and subscribe to this podcast. This will help us get these messages out into the world and inspire more people to take conscious action in their own lives, contributing to the better world we hope for.